we're going to get started here in a few minutes, give anyone else who might be coming. If you guys have any questions for me before we start. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there is a section that kind of comes up the western side of the county. We don't have a whole lot of record of it. This was just one image that we had, and it'll kind of snake its way up kind of towards the DC area, if I recall correctly. All right, well, it is 3, so I guess we'll get started here. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. My name is Troy Marshall. I'm the GIS technician here at AAHA. So I do all of the mapping and geospatial data work here. And over the past few months, I have been putting together this new website. It will house all of our maps and data related to them in a place where it's easily accessible to the community in terms of our volunteers and any sort of research we have. So the plan for today is to go through the maps that I've created already, as well as some of the other functionality that we have, and then take any questions you might have at the end. So to get started, we'll look at our 3 interactive maps. These are the ones that we have to start, but we hope to have some more in the future. So the first one we have is the 1861 land tax map. This was started as my undergrad research project while I was at Virginia Tech. And after coming onto the staff here, I worked to create the app you see in front of you here. So this map shows roughly 1,000 different parcels in Fauquier County from about the year 1830 to 1869. And it lists the landowner, any sort of related deed book or will book, and then the recorded acreage that they had at the time. So this is, as you can see, a bit incomplete in certain areas. That's because of a couple of reasons. So parcels under 10 acres were not mapped when this was originally done by Wynn Saffer back in the early 2000s. So we're missing that data, and the southern end of the county is still currently being mapped. So you'll see holes in this area. And then when we start looking at some of the data, you might see that some of them don't have a landowner, and that's because we're still working on getting that information connected. So the map is pretty easy to use. There's a couple ways that you can interact with it. First is by clicking on a parcel, and the list over here will filter out all of the names and deeds that are associated with that specific plot of land. So you can click around and try to find it, and it'll put everything that we currently have tied to it. You can also search. So if you're looking for a specific family, let's say the Marshall family, we can search that, and the list now holds all the Marshall related plots, and clicking on it will highlight it there on the map. There's also the ability to search for an address. So if we just put in Warrenton, for example, it'll zoom in and place a point, and then you can see if it's in a parcel that we currently have mapped, and then of course click on it. And in this instance, we don't have one in town, but if you did, you'd be able to kind of see who's in that area. The other thing that all of our maps have is this about page. So it gives a quick about the map itself. It gives you information on how to navigate it. The next page contains lists of every single tool that is available on the map. So hovering over a tool will show you the name as it is written here. So if you're confused on the functionality of something, or want to see if there's another way to look at the information, this is all here written out in a way that makes it easy for people to use. And then all of them have a user survey, which we'll cover towards the end, but they allow you to submit reports on suggestions that you might have or errors that you find during like your time using the map. So that's the 1861 tax map. Clicking up here at Map Center will take you back to the home page, and we'll look at the WPA historical inventory sites. So the WPA historical inventory of Fauquier County was a New Deal era project that was created in order to map the various historic sites and landmarks across the various counties in Virginia. So we mapped all of the sites that are there. They also have things like genealogies, diaries, other books that were available as part of the project, but they are not here. You can find them either in our record room upstairs or on the Library of Virginia's site. So for this one, it's just gives the title of the entry as it was listed in WPA, the record creator, whoever went to the site and surveyed that, and the date that they recorded it, and then all of the sites have a classification, which you can see over here in the legend. So the map is color-coded. We go back to there. All of the sites are color-coded by their WPA delineation. So of course, they're mostly old houses and such, but that gives you a way to visualize kind of where these sites are and what sites are where. So one of the special things about this map in particular is this African-American voice filter. Clicking that will filter the extent of the map. So these are sites that we have gone through the WPA records and abstracted information from those records that pertains to the African-American experience in the county. So if you click on one, you'll now see a little bio down there. And this is a just the text from the WPA article that had to do with some sort of African-American experience. And all of the records that are in the filter, about half of them throughout the county have some sort of African-American voice. Some are very simple, from simply stating there were slave quarters on the property, whereas some give long anecdotes about people's lives or people's experiences. So we can click through a couple and see that some of them can get quite long. Some of them also have images. So I'll see if I can find one. So the image there, and then if you click on the image, it will take you to the original that's housed at the Library of Virginia's website. If you're also interested in researching more, if you click link to source down here, it will link straight to the Library of Virginia's record on that specific site. So you can find more information that we provide, and going down to view here and clicking that will provide you with the original paper documentation that came along with this site. So it gives you the ability to research more beyond what we have in the map itself. The only other thing of note here would be this accuracy number down here. In order to be as transparent as possible, we put that there because not all of these sites exist anymore. So I can't, with 100% accuracy in all of them, tell you that this is exactly where it was. So we have the chart. If you go over to the tools page here, and it'll give you an idea of how accurate I was able to get with that. The original maps that this came with were not the best, to be honest. The Library of Virginia said that they tried to clean them, but in the process misplaced half of the points. So if we go back to the main map and see, there's a lot in the town of Warrenton, but all of these points were placed north of it. So for some reason, they failed to place that correctly. So I couldn't trust any of the information that they had on those maps, and had to individually check each point and cross-reference information that we have here, as well as a couple of other sources that were provided to me from the county to get my best estimate of where that site might be. So that's the WPA site. And then finally, for our interactive maps, we have the African American Cemetery map, which is a work in progress. We currently have nearly 50 cemeteries on the map, with hopes to add more over time, as we get more information on where these are and as we find records that we don't currently have. So this one functions very similarly to the WPA, where it gives you the name of the cemetery, and clicking on it will provide you with information such as where we found the cemetery originally. Most of the ones on the site currently come from this Faulkner County, Virginia tombstone inscription book, which was done in the late 90s. So we took that information and the rough descriptions that it gives, I went through and used Google Earth to locate these to the best of my ability. Some of them have images that were taken by patrons here, or we have gone out and surveyed it ourselves and taken the pictures. And all of them have a Find a Grave link button if there is one. So clicking on it will take you to the Find a Grave site for that specific graveyard, so that you can look into the memorials and such that we don't currently have. The hope for this one is to pack as much information as we can, so allowing you to search by families that are buried there at some point. So if you're looking for your specific family, you can then filter that to only show cemeteries that have that. Eventually putting in the gravestone inscriptions themselves, who is buried there, will be a project that we'll take on at some point, as well as, of course, providing more accuracy on the site. So maybe going through and putting in a polygon for, rather than just a point, so you can see the bounds of that site instead of just where that is. So that covers all of our different maps that I have made. We have our story map, which was done before I was brought on, but this is what started our mapping projects here. So clicking view will take you to that, where we give overview of the churches, communities, and schools that are in the county through a very narrative-driven experience. So whereas the other ones were very data-driven, this one is more telling the story rather than you having to piece it together yourself. And of course, it has various maps down here that allow you to explore a school, a church, a community, if that's what you're looking for. So going back to the Map Center, we have the surveys. So I touched on this earlier. We have two surveys currently, the General Report Survey and the Cemetery Location Report. The General Report Survey is if you have any suggestions or things that you would like to provide to me that I can improve the experience of any of our maps, this would be the place to do it. This is embedded directly into each of the maps on that About page. So you don't have to go back to the home page and click on this. It's right there for you to be able to file a report while you're looking, and each will give you a little text box, or if it's a bug, perhaps the name of the map. So whatever information I need to fix the problem or improve the site as quickly as possible. And to get back, we have the Back to Map Center button down there. And we'll look at the cemetery location report. So this one is my way of getting more community engagement with the maps. So people can either file reports on existing sites. So we'll take a look at that real quick. So if we go to look at the existing site page, it will bring you here where you can either say that a point's been placed incorrectly, provide additional information, or provide photos. So if a point's been placed incorrectly, you'll enter the name of the site and provide any information that you have on how I can remedy that. And then if there's any sort of visual that you have in terms of Google image or something like that that you want to provide to make it easier on me, that's there. Or if you just want to provide some photos, there's a file upload for that. The new site will allow you to provide me a cemetery that I haven't currently plotted. So you provide the name, or if it doesn't have a name, we ask you to provide the families that are buried there. And then clicking this allows you to activate the map. So we can zoom in and move around. And then if we right click, it places that point and it will save that information. So I now know the exact GPS coordinates of the cemetery that you just showed me. So I can grab that, put that into the map, and it will take me about 5 minutes to put the information that you provided to the rest of the public. We also ask you to provide condition if you can, and any additional information, as well as photos, documentation, anything like that that you'd like us to have. I believe that is everything that I have to show for now. I'll take any questions before kind of talking about the future of these projects.
Can you access these maps outside the museum?
Yes, this will be available on our site hopefully after this. The site is live. There just isn't a link on the main website to get here.
Just go to your website.
Yeah, it'll be on the website. Yes.
What inspired
So as part of the geography degree there, we're required to do undergraduate research or some sort of field study, so either with a professor or something like that. But after COVID, it had greatly reduced the number of internships and everything like that that were available. So I started reaching out to organizations close to home. I'm born and raised and fought here. So I reached out here, and Karen got back to me saying that they wanted to pursue this 1861 tax map. So I took the original paper map, which was roughly 86 different pages of like snippets of maps, pieced those together, traced over them digitally, and inputted all the information by hand. So that was just kind of out of necessity for school, but eventually found a love for this kind of historical research in terms of spatial data.
Congratulations, wonderful job.
Thank you. All right.
Is there anything on the land tax that you can tell what might possibly be regarding the property, or as most of it is right?
So funny you asked that. That is actually a future project that I'm currently working on. We have the 1861 pre-Negro and residence data, which lists roughly 100 different African-American men who were free at the time and were either living on someone's property or potentially had property of their own. So that will be an additional layer on top of this map sometime down the line.
And the other question is sort of similar, quite simple,
Mhm.
which sort of, to me, is usually attached to a church, right? But what we're talking about is on a stage where it's not very.
So both actually. So we do have some church cemeteries in there, but some of them are unmarked slave burial grounds that we have found. Either the county has some reported that I'm working on getting the information on, as well as that documentation on tombstone inscriptions. So whatever we can to try to find those unmarked graves. Are also been working with Wendy Wheatcraft with the county, because she does a lot of that historic cemetery research and delineation. So taking some of the information that she has and potentially being able to put that if it pertains to what we're doing. You're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question, but the story that goes down.
Oh, yeah, that.
Any time. That's fine. Once you click on, you'll probably click on.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
They have just, we live in Upperville,
Mhm.
and a friend of ours, African American, he has a very small cemetery, African American cemetery, property. And he very much would like to get that registered because people are trying to buy the land around there, so these all these things. What should we do?
So that would be a question for when you recraft. Afterwards, I can
Yeah, that would be good.
to you. So
She's
you
with
can-
Faulkner. County.
yeah, she's with the counties as well as, I believe, the historical association. So she works for both, but working with her, she tries really hard to delineate those. I know she's working on a project right now with the same circumstances as people are trying to build on a land where there's a documented burial ground, and she's working to kind of prevent that. So yes, I can provide that information afterwards. You had a question back there?
It's fantastic. Putting it on the map is coming, and I'm gonna send you a lot of information related to the Run Mountains. But my question is, I've done a lot of research for Run Mountains. It's very frustrating because there's a county line that divides Princeton and the from here, and the line has moved historically. It's still like looking that if something is just over the line in Prince William County, that we can put it on the map.
I mean, we have a couple, especially in WPA, I'll pull that up. We have a couple that were technically part of the county at that point, but have since kind of moved that line. So for some reason it is frozen, but we could definitely take a look at historic maps and stuff like that to kind of pinpoint where that is, and of course put that on a map if we can. Anything else? We are definitely working with that. WPA only has the photographs that were originally provided, but of course for the African-American Cemetery one, we are going to try to get as many photographs of that. The application can only show one photo at a time, but we have several for some of the sites that will eventually link to one of our databases that can be directly reached from there. So you don't have to just look at the one photo that I've chosen. You can look at all of the ones that have been taken either by staff here or volunteers who have sent them.
But I think that it also impressive if you are searching the archives online, there are plenty of books.
Oh yeah, no, there are.
So you can search like the family or anything you're interested in, and it will give you a choice. I think it's sort of like you can click on it, the old doc, but also photos.
But we also have photos that aren't currently on there, so we're working to add all that to databases. So
It'd be great if there was a way to get first person voice recording of what people remember. What people remember.
So you mentioned that, and that is actually a project that I am working on. So going into our future projects real quick. So of course, updating the cemetery layer and adding that 1861 pre-Negro residency data. But I'm also working on a World War I veterans map. So we have information that veterans filled out in a questionnaire after the war, and all of the information that they have on where they lived before the war, where they were born, where their parents were born, where they did basic training, where they were stationed. So my plan is for Veterans Day to get as much of that in there as possible, so that you can basically take a guided tour of where these men went during the war and see not only what they were thinking and kind of what like their voices said, but also where they were when they were experiencing these things.
That would be great. It's just that I don't live on the other side of the tracks, so I live on the historic. And I live there. And so I think it could easily just if there's not a real way, real memory of what was of a life that you don't really see so much.
Of course, yeah.
It could vanish.
No, and that's very true. And I know that we've had a couple projects in the past where we have gone through and interviewed individuals to get that information. And we've kind of thrown around the idea of voice recordings, but there is a lot of time and kind of working with people to get that. So it's not something that we can necessarily do very quickly, but something that's definitely on the docket of things to look into.
done some of those. Also when we were touching the veterans' voices, story for, and this.
I actually am not. That isn't something.
Because they have two veterans' voices.
Okay.
projects,
I'll
and
have
they
to take a
deal
look.
with, World War I.
Okay, yeah, I'll just take a look at that. This was something that we had only started a few days ago, so I'm in the beginning of kind of researching all
Yeah.
of this. But yeah, that'll definitely be something to take a look at.
8 hours a week.
I actually only work 20 hours a week currently, so. Well, I think that that is all, unless there's more questions. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Are you